Hello, JJDL viewers. Skippy here, coach of the Steel City Surge, back again for the Week 5 team builder for our matchup this week against the Seattle Sigalith and their coach, Dashing Septile. We finally got our first win of the season last week. If you haven't watched that video, please go check it out. We had a very stellar battle against CJ, and we finally picked up our first one of the season. Very happy about that outcome. Very much looking forward to how we can progress throughout the rest of this season. And it starts with this week. The second half of the season is kicking off, and we have a very, very big match that we need to try to pick up some momentum with our win from last week. Now, going into this matchup, we have another scary team coming up with Great Tusk, Free Terra, Thunderous Therian, Augerpon Wellspring, Cinderace, Gudra, Grimmsnarl, Iron Crown, Terra Munchlax is kind of an issue with Terra Fairy, but we also got Houndstone over there. That could be a problem potentially, but I don't see it coming because of Samurott being a potential option for us. But we do have a very scary matchup across the table, and I'm not sure exactly which 6 mons are going to be brought. I know for a fact that Great Tusk, Thunderous Therian, Cinderace, and probably Grimmsnarl are showing up. Those last 2 slots I feel like could be Munchlax, Augerpon, Iron Crown, or Gudra. So it could be any one of those 4 as those potential last 2 slots. If he decides to not go with those first 4 that I picked to be guaranteed to show up this week, we may have a better shot because those 4 mons are very much big problems. Even Ogrepon is a problem, but I don't know if it shows up this week just because Sun kind of limits its Ivy Cudgel potential, but it can still be a threat. So we have a very interesting team that we have gone ahead and built. We're going to go ahead and start off with our Bolova. That's going to be our essentially defensive backbone this week. It does so much for us in this matchup. It is a very like a perfect counter almost to Great Tusk with Terra Bug. Max HP and 204 defense with a bold nature allows us to live every hit that it has throws at us. And even in Sun with a booster attack, it's a 3-hit KO pretty much for everything to hit. Even Headlong Rush Earthquake with Seed Sower active limits that greatly and still allows us to live at least 2, if not 3 hits, depending on the specific build he decides to go with. We have Giga Drain to hit it back, as well as Alluring Voice if it does decide to be a bulk up setup set, so that we can get that confusion and go from there. We also have Earth Power for coverage, as well as Weather Ball. I thought about running a Hyper Voice set this week as well with Throat Spray, but Alluring Voice would proc Throat Spray, and I was not using Hyper Voice during mocks, so I decided against that for this build, and we are running Assault Vest as well, so we can get some longevity against some of these special attackers. Because there are a good amount of special attackers, Iron Crown being one, Thunderous being another, both of those have potential to one-shot Arbolova, even with Terra Bug. If Thunderous T is flying or fire Terra with Terra Blast, that could be a problem. And if Iron Crown decides to bring Air Slash, which I have seen in mocks, that could be a problem. Otherwise, we pretty much counter those guys very, very, very well. Even Terra Ice Thunderous T does not do a whole lot to us with this build. We also check Grimmsnarl extremely well, and Gudra also does not do very well, even with a Flamethrower boosted or Fire Blast boosted in the Sun. Does not do very well against this Arbolova set. So, very much looking forward to seeing what Arbolova can do this week. It's been a very key part of our team the past couple of weeks. So hopefully we can try to ride its defensive back throughout the rest of the season. We may make some changes with the trade deadline, but we're not sure yet going forward. In terms of the other mons that we have Gouging Fire here. Its set is mainly there for doing as much chip as possible. We are running more of a Resto Chesto set this week just to try to throw him off a little bit because he's probably expecting heavy duty boots, booster energy, choice band, or choice scarf, just like an offensive type set. And Resto Chesto allows us to kind of throw him off there. We still get a attack boost with this build. We have some solid defenses, so we can live pretty much most hits outside of like a Draco Meteor from Gudra, or like a Terra Dragon Terra Blast from Thunderous. but Heat Crash, Earthquake, and Dragonclaw hit a lot of his team for massive damage. It really just depends on what decides to switch in. Most of the time, it's probably going to be Great Tusk. So the idea is to get gouging in kind of early, and then bait Great Tusk in to use either Earthquake or Headlong Rush, and then get our Bolova in from there and Terra Bug, so we don't have to worry about a close combat or an Ice Spinner coming out and hitting us for super effective damage. So that's the plan for that's the initial plan, at least for what we have in store for this battle. Again, Heat Crash does massive damage to most of his team. It's just essentially it's like Quillfish and Great Tusk and maybe Terra Fairy Munchlax that kind of resist everything. I think even Houndstone takes massive damage. Gudra kind of just goes down to a Dragon Claw. So yeah, that's what this build is for gouging fire. Torkoal is there just to try to check Cinderace a little bit, as well as try to provide some defensive options against the Auger Pawn and try to take it out with potentially an Overheat. I don't see it really doing that much for us, but it's got Rapid Spin Stealth Rock like it does every week for us. We're going to hopefully try to switch that up at some point in the near future. But we're also running Earthquake to try to catch a non-Libero or pre-Libero Cinderace off guard with the Earthquake. That should do massive damage to potentially 2-hit KO. I can't remember the calc off the top of my head, but it should do massive damage to that and chip it down a ton, to the point where it will go down to pretty much any hit from any mon at that point. And then Overheat for stab and massive damage. Going on from Torkoal, we do have Landorus here. Landorus is going to provide a lot of offensive pressure against this team. We're running a Choice Scarf set again this week, just so we can outspeed a max speed Cinderace, as well as everything else on his team outside of like Booster Speed Iron Crown, or Booster Speed Great Tusk, or Trailblaze Auger Pawn. Earth Power and Sludge Wave take down the majority of his team. Psychic is there for potentially Great Tusk if we do get that matchup and it's not boosted speed at all. It could do some very good damage against like a Terra Fighting Thunderous Therian that's not Scarf or anything like that. So U-Turn is also there just for momentum purposes. We're probably going to lead Landorus again this week and try to get a U-Turn off right away into Gouging Fire. It really depends on what we see first off, but I'm going to try to take my time early in the game and try to get myself into position to get our Bolova, that Terra Bug, off right away. Because if I'm being completely honest, I can see a Grimmsnarl lead. I can see a Cinderace lead. Cinderace lead seems very likely. I can also see a Great Tusk lead. So not having like a definitive lead from the other side makes me want to lead Landorus and just go for a U-turn and then try to pick things out from there. Moving on from Landorus, we do have our Heatran. Heatran is there to provide a very solid check to Thunderous Therian. It will do pretty much everything for us outside of like Terra Ground, Terra Fighting, Terra Water potentially against it. We do have Will-O-Wisp there because there is a lot of physical attackers on the other side of the field with Great Tusk, Auger Pawn, Grimmsnarl. Houndstone is a problem. Gudra can be a problem with a physical attack. Even for whatever reason, physical Thunderous Therian could be a potential problem if he decides to go with that. Cinderace after Libero could potentially get burned with Will-O-Wisp as well, depending if it wants to go Fire, Bug. If it wants to stay a Fire type, that's fine. We'll Flash Fire whatever it wants to do. Libero is going to be the main key. If it is Libero, we may try to protect and see if we can get a high jump kick miss with that and try to scout for it. Lava Plume is there over Magma Storm just because I kept missing Magma Storm and I'm getting a little sick of it. Plus, Lava Plume does potentially burn. It has a 30% chance to burn whenever it hits, so having that as an available option on a potential switch-in is very, very nice. Next and lastly, we have our Venusaur set. Now, this Venusaur set originally was supposed to be a very, very easy cleaner with lots of sun turns. However, we are heavy-duty boots on our Torkoal and not Heat Rock this week, so got to keep that in mind, and we need at least 2, if not 3 turns of sun, because this set is meant to get a growth up on a potential switch, depending on if we can get like Torkoal sacked late in the game, get that Sun up for 1 turn, throw in Venusaur, and then threaten whatever is in front of it. So we have Energy Ball and Sludge Bomb for just Space Stab, and then we have Earth Power as well. I thought about potentially running Weather Ball, but I don't think Weather Ball does as much as I want it to do against a lot of these mons. Um, it would make sense to run Weather Ball. I may switch that before the match, and if I do, you will see that in the actual battle. I'll make an announcement for that if I do end up making that switch. But for right now, we are running Earth Power. So just to keep that in mind, I may switch that. I think switching it might be a good idea the more I think about it, but we'll see. We'll see how that changes. But that's the team for this week. Again, very scary matchup going into this match, but hopefully we can ride the defensive keys of our Bolova, Torkoal, and Heatran, and then try to get some pickoffs with Landorus, Venusaur. Maybe our Bolova gets a pickoff. Maybe Heatran gets a pickoff. Maybe Gouging Fire just goes and sweeps for absolutely no reason at all. A number of different things can happen, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what we can do with this team. So, catch you all in the battle, and peace.